Almost 80% there of the national vote counted. What's it all mean? Well, here's the Australian's national editor, Dennis Shanahan. We've just seen that breakdown. Even in the state of Victoria, I couldn't believe that when that came in on Saturday night as a no state. Emphatic rejection. I keep using that word. I don't think I can get a better word. An emphatic rejection of the PM's constitutional voice to the Parliament. What are the political implications here, Dennis?
Oh, well, of course, the vote is a disaster for Anthony Albanese. It is well beyond what people expected. It's certainly not what he expected. It's now worse than the Republican vote and looks to be even worse than the preamble vote in 1999. So this is a record low vote for a referendum, and the architect of it was Anthony Albanese. He promised it at the moment he was elected, and from there on has campaigned for it. He told Aboriginal leaders they could have what they wanted. He gave it to them. He gave no compromise. He gave no conciliation. He gave no real attempt to get bipartisan support. At no stage did he say to the Aboriginal leadership, look, I don't think we can get this up, because he believed he could, and he believed he could do it on the vibe. So what we've actually seen is now the electorate overwhelmingly reject it, basically because of a lack of detail. This was another decision by Anthony Albanese. On Saturday night, Anthony Albanese said he took responsibility. Well, he did have to take responsibility. He had no choice. Today, on the first sitting after, he's attempted to shift the blame. He's trying to suggest that, you know, Peter Dutton's really at fault. Now, I don't think there's any immediate fallout for Anthony Albanese in terms of a challenge, but it has damaged his credibility. It's damaged his judgment. It means he's out of touch with the Australian public, and this will be something that his colleagues will look at over the coming months into next year. And if there's anything else, any other big policy he makes a mistake on, then that will be doubled down. Not only that, the big danger for him is if yes campaigners, as they already have, start to blame him for the failure and not take the blame themselves. This is Anthony Albanese's referendum. It's his result.
He tried, though, on Saturday night, and it's been the sort of the script for the last couple of days, to try and make this about Peter Dutton and a lack of bipartisanship. But you don't get bipartisanship by saying, this is my idea, take it or leave it. That's not what bipartisanship is. And, of course, that's what the PM offered. He wouldn't move an inch on any of this. A whole lot of captain's calls here. He's continuing them today, Dennis. He was in the Parliament today, backing in Makarrata, says that the Treaty Commission is still on the table. Now, after a vote like that on the voice, what do you reckon the numbers would be if the Australian public was voting on a Treaty Commission? That's also got to concern his colleagues, because he has no licence for this from the voter.
None at all. And these are questions which will continue to be asked by the coalition, because as far as the Makarrata Commission is concerned, there's already been $1 million spent, and we don't know what it was for. Before the referendum, Linda Burney said, oh, we'll let you know after, and there's been $26 million allocated to the Commission. $26 million taken out of the budget, allocated. Almost $1 million already spent, and we don't know what it was for. Now, these are things that the government is going to have to respond to. Now, the Prime Minister suggested there might be a bit of a review on this. They should. They should do a real review. And then that opens the whole issue that Jacinta Price and Peter Dutton have raised about an audit of all of the existing spending. Even the Prime Minister said on Saturday night that people who voted no were not actually voting for status quo. He changed his message, but at least he admitted it, that people who were voting no want things done for Indigenous Australia, and this is where the test is going to have to be. It's going to have to be done without the voice, which wasn't the only answer, and the government is going to have to be held to account on what it does now, and the Makarrata Commission is one of them, with a $26 million price tag.
I made some comments at the top of the show there also too. Yes, it was about the voice. I'm not distracting that vote away from the voice question, but it had, I think, a lot of implications for woke, for people being sneered at by elites. I think corporate Australia, Dennis, has got to have a really hard look at itself, sporting codes as well. All of that's wrapped up into it. But of course, today in the Parliament, when they returned, Israel was top of mind for condolence motions for debate. But interestingly, Tony Burke, who I had heavily criticised last week for failing to call out that imam who was out there on the Sunday night after the massacres, spewing his hate everywhere. Well, Tony Burke said he was not well. He blamed his health issues for his failure to call him out. Have a listen.
A few people, not many, are aware of the state of my health last week, which meant my public commentary was very limited, and when comments were eventually given to the media late in the week, they were not published. So allow me to take this chance to be quite unequivocal. Statements of hate speech, some of which were given in my part of Sydney, some of which were given elsewhere, are all unacceptable and are all to be condemned. There is no place for hate speech in Australia.
And then you add in the Greens today, Dennis, and Kylea Tink, Sophie, Scamps, and the Tasmanian Independent Andrew Wilkie, all supporting a motion today in the Parliament condemning Israel. I mean, I think this is extraordinary.
It was a bizarre situation. We had a bipartisan position supported by the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, the Leader of the National Party, and many independents, and they were moving a motion supporting Israel, offering condolences to the victims, and also calling for further peace in Israel, as the Prime Minister himself made clear. The actions, these horrific actions by Hamas, unprovoked attack on Israeli people, have put the two-state solution further away. And yet the Greens and two Teals Independents and Andrew Wilkie from Tasmania extraordinarily supported a motion to condemn Israel and accuse it of war crimes in its defence. This was extraordinary. We actually saw the position where at one stage the House separated and there were more than 130 MPs, Nationals, Independents, Liberals, Labor, all on one side, and four Green MPs on the other, supporting an amendment which was crushed despite the support from the members of North Sydney and Mackellar in Sydney. It was defeated properly, and yet we had this bizarre marring of what should have been a unanimous condemnation of the Hamas terror attacks and support for Israel.
I tell you, if you live in those seats of North Sydney and Mackellar, Tink and Scamps are your local MPs. That should be out there on call flutes between now and the polling day coming up when the federal election's next held, because that is reprehensible behaviour for any MP. Thank you, Dennis. It's been a big few months, certainly a big weekend for the referendum. Thank you again for your analysis.